You're listening to Rock and Roll According to the Men in Black, the story of the Stranglers with me, Dave Mason. With the departure from their record company and an evolution in their music, the band had to take stock before their next move.
Why do you think things mellowed?
You said it yourself just now, one gets older. You don't retain the initial anger. Well, nobody I know of has any, and no bands that I know of have. Do you?
But like 1982 to 1990... how should we encapsulate that 8-year period? I mean, you did the 10th studio album.
A lot of time, Hugh didn't want to tour. Which,
Is that what it was? Is that the reason for your low profile?
Really? Well, I think so. It wasn't. There were a few other people at times. I won't mention names. I can't remember. But myself included. If you've been on the road for 6 months, you say, "Oh, I don't want to tour." I never said I don't want to tour anymore. Hugh actually has said that, and then changed his mind, etc. So he didn't want to tour. He didn't want to play America. Things like, which slows you down. So.
Do you think, have penetrated America more had you worked harder at America then?
Undoubtedly. If we were to go over there even now, and you've got to spend 4 to 6 months solid work.
I'm told.
Yeah. At least,
And quite a lot of money in investment, actually.
Yeah.
As well,
from somebody's money, yeah, whether it's a record company or whatever. Well, hopefully you can earn enough gigging, at least to live. But I mean, to do that, at least you've got a chance that way. That's the only way you have, really, to build a name there.
In America, the Stranglers are known on the college circuit, the university circuit.
We're a cult band there. Right. We have a fair following on the coast. We can, fill out several thousand on the east and west coast, maybe.
Would you like to achieve a kind of world band status, having been around so consistently for so long?
It would be nice, but... Well, America, I mean, is where the big money is. But, I mean, then again, if we had millions each or whatever, who knows what that would do to us.
Journalist Chris Toomey.
It was a combination of two things. There were the music, the biz over here came down on them for whatever reason, didn't like them. They described themselves as the lepers of rock. They really were just not liked. If you mentioned their name, it would be, oh God, the Stranglers. And also they made a lot of bad decisions along the way as well, it has to be said. They put their trust in the wrong people, agents, managers. There have been a lot of them. I'm not going to single anyone out, but some bad decisions were made. They antagonised the record company. That didn't help. Although I think sometimes they were justified, sometimes they weren't. And people don't forget when JJ hit some promoter or swore at a radio plugger, those guys didn't forget it. And the next time the Stranglers needed a favour doing, they didn't get it done. Simple as that, really. There are a few famous occasions when he kidnapped journalists. I can remember 2 or 3 who had written unfavourable reviews of the band. He took it very personally, and if he felt that people should be personally accountable for things they wrote, and if they wouldn't say it to his face, if they were going to hide behind the cowardly act of writing something and having it printed, and he wanted to face them, and he did. He bundled a few journalists in the back of vans and hoiked them out and tied them up. One poor girl nearly got tied to a tree in Portugal.
And left there?
Yeah, nearly. She got away.
There was one particular guy, he kidnapped a journalist from London, who he didn't like, and took him up to Dunstable or something, had him on. The guy eventually managed to escape and ran into a police station. Don't let them get me,
What about the occasion, the launch of the Black and White album in Iceland? One journalist actually missed the plane because he was far too drunk. Weren't there some altercations and exchanges between him and JJ about outdoing each other with drink?
Well, that was at the height of the Stranglers versus the media. That was just at the time when they were constantly getting bad press and journalists were hating them like mad. So it was really a management ruse, that. I mean, why don't we fly out 150 journalists to the frozen north where they can't possibly escape, and put them in with the Stranglers? Basically, the record company and the management knew that they were going to get a diamond story out of it, because there just had to be an incident, and there were loads.
It was in Iceland, and the journalists that got left behind.
Yes. I remember that.
I need to recount that, please.
Basically, to the best of my memory, the day after the gig, there was an organised outing, pony trekking. Basically, I think I was the only one. Me and my first wife made it. The only ones to make it from the band who were actually up without too much of a hangover.
With the partying.
Yeah, exactly. So we go out first thing in the morning. A whole load of journalists, a few of the crew, myself and my first wife, and we started the day off in this pumping station. where they pump hot spring water under the streets of Reykjavik to keep the ice off the streets. Now, you start off, you have some of this water, hot water, with a lot of liberal doses of rum and sugar, because it's very bitter. So it warms the system up, you know, and gets started. This particular journalist, whose name I cannot remember, he sported a monocle and a cane, though, if that helps anybody, decided he was going to stay in the pumping station drinking these hot swimming waters and rums while we all went out pony trekking. But it was a very, very satisfying day for me, because Sheds put it best, I think. He was our then crew boss. Something like horses 9, journalists 0. So many people got thrown, it was hilarious. But anyway, after that we went back, and this particular journalist, I think, was in the bar at the pool having a few more drinks. JJ, I believe, picked up on this. So on the coach, several hours to the airport, was feeding him large whiskies all the way.
This poor bloke from, I think he was from the Evening Standard, had the gall to stand up one day and say to JJ, "Oh, I can outdrink you any time of the day," and you know, you just don't say things like that to JJ. And so he introduced this guy to the better part of a bottle of Fat 69, I think. So that by the time they got to the airport, to Reykjavik airport, all sorts of things were coming out of odd orifices of this guy's body.
So by the time we got to the airport, he was probably worse than unconscious. He couldn't move. He was in a chair. His tongue was lolling out. And
he was so drunk that the airline wouldn't let him on the plane. So they sort of got this... rather than just abandon him, they made a real meal out of it. They got this wheelchair from somewhere, put this guy in the wheelchair in his drunken stupor, and got the whole entourage to sit round this guy, him at the centre, in a sort of football team type photo with everyone cross-armed, and this guy completely out for the count at the front of it all. And they said, "Thanks very much." They all got on the plane and left him there for 3 days. It took him about 3 days to get back.
And he had to find his own way as well.
Yeah, he had to pay for himself.
I think it was just JJ's devilment. A target, a victim. We'll feed him up. He was well sloshed at the point when we left for the airport.
But a lot of the stories are quite true. I mean, it is true that when we went to Australia, we got a journalist, and it was a woman who we could not get rid of. She was like in the hotel, in all the rooms. She was in the dress. She wormed her way in everywhere to get her story, and so we thought we'd make an example of her, and we tied her up in gaffer tape, carted her on the stage and dumped her on the stage, and there she lay on the stage tied up through the entire concert in front of all her journalistic peers. So, you know, we can play our little pranks when we feel it's appropriate, but, you know, polite and intelligent people usually get treated as polite, intelligent people.
Surprisingly, even with a seasoned band like the Stranglers, writing and recording doesn't always go to plan, despite having producers, managers and engineers around to offer advice. The 1986 album Dreamtime spawned the classic hit Always the Sun, and with it some problems. Dave Greenfield.
No, but you start recording something. I mean, a number of times we've done this, we've recorded a number time and time again. Or you record it and you think, this is it, and then it's mixed, it's totally different. You never know until the final mix is done how a number's going to turn out at all.
So that means that you don't know till the end whether you're happy with it or not.
No, really, you're right. We recorded, I can't remember, Always the Sun so many times.
Really?
Yeah. Different styles, different ways. I think Shaking was done quite a few times and changed a lot as well. But those two in particular. There was something there with Always the Sun. We know it didn't do much in England, but it was a big hit around Europe.
That is one of the Stranglers classics.
Yeah, but it took a lot of recordings and a lot of style changes and rewriting, well, not rewriting, but rearranging, until we finally got the final thing. We all felt there was something in the song that wasn't happening.
That wasn't happening. So
Eventually
what made it buzz? What made it happen?
Well, the end result was when we came out with the version that was released, or close to it, everyone said, yeah, this is better. This is better. Producers, management, everyone, record company, us included.
Is there a track that is, for you, most distinguishable to play that you think, I find this hard every time, this bit's a bit of a sod?
Tank and Toiler are really two very difficult ones. Probably Toiler being harder, the beginning being harder. It's very fast. The very fast keyboard run at the intro. That is a challenge. I enjoy that. Even though we all make mistakes. I make quite a few on that sometimes. Most of the time people don't notice it. That's part of us. I mean, the fans love us, so if we stop during a number because something's gone wrong, they love it. That's part of the Stranglers. We're not a slick professional outfit, or they don't go there to see us play note perfect or well, at least we've proved we're not using tapes, put it that way.
As the Men in Black crossed the boundary into their third decade together, it was apparent within and without that the raw vitality was missing, that something was needed to rejuvenate an overall lacklustre live outfit. 1990 was also to be the year that marked the end of an era and a chapter in rock history. Hugh Cornwell left. But does the band agree that some effort was lacking? Jean-Jacques and Dave.
It's possible, yeah, I'm sure it's very possible.
For quite a few years, yes, the action on the stage just slowed down a lot, which is why we got the brass in, you know, for a visual thing. And when we got Paul, he's such a bouncy character, you know, live wire, and he's a definite focal point. We thought there's no need. We'll go back to as we were, get rid of the brass, and do it our own way again. Because Hugh and JJ weren't moving as much as they used to. Well, everyone gets older anyway. Jess obviously can't move at all. I can hardly move. You know, I've got to keep. It's not.
It's a static show, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Hugh, you know, within the format of the four of us, we just went about as far as we could, and Hugh felt that he couldn't. There could be no sort of more evolution without an actual change of personnel. So that's why he sacrificed himself. That's why he fell on his sword.
We weren't achieving what we were setting out to do. It's whatever situation you're in, if you're not, be it a relationship or taking driving lessons and failing your test, you know, it's the same sort of thing. It doesn't lead to inner pleasure. You know, you're not content.
You did your 10th studio album, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah. It's lack of content. I wasn't content. You know, I wasn't content with what was happening. The amount of work that was going into what was happening, the results wasn't right. You know.
So presumably Hugh wasn't content. And the animosity between him and Jean-Jacques has lasted all these years since.
Any hard feeling do you keep in touch with Hugh?
No, I don't keep much in touch with him at the moment. I'm a bit I've got nothing to say to him at the moment. I've got nothing to say to him at the moment.
How do you feel about that now, in that obviously you're not in touch?
Well, the Stranglers are continuing. I was a bit disappointed in them, actually, for going on. But I wish them the best. And the reason why I'm disappointed is because in my mind I didn't see that there was any future for it, and I thought that everyone felt that secretly, you know, banging our heads against a brick wall, really, going up a down escalator, and that's why I left. So that's why I have a bit of disappointment, but I wish them all the best in their decision. It's a very brave one to carry on, you know.
Was he wrong?
Well, you've seen it recently. There's a lot more energy. Maybe it was Hugh. Maybe we were. I mean, stuck in a rut. But I mean, he seemed to be the one that was pulling it down more than anything else. Look, well, this is... Maybe if somebody else had left, we'd be talking amongst ourselves and saying the same thing about them. It's difficult to say. But isn't that the reason why one leaves the band anyway? Because you're not interested in doing it anymore. Therefore, I would have said it would... Probably Hugh was more stuck in the rut than anyone else at the time.
Former guitarist John Ellis.
I think that Hugh made a wrong decision. I think Hugh should have said, well, I have ambitions for the band and it's not happening. I think he should have stayed and worked it out. Like you do with any business, you don't give up on it. You try and get it sorted. You try and sort out your problems. I mean, the Stranglers, they've done some amazing things as a band, and I think you owe it to yourself to at least try and work something out. Now, it might have been that they tried to work it out and it didn't happen. But to just say, well, I've had enough, I'm pissing off now, I don't give a toss, I think that's a little bit defeatist. It's bizarre. When he says the band couldn't go any further, the band has gone further. But to say that the band had given up and wasn't going anywhere, it was in a way a bit of a comment on Hugh's relationship with the band. I think it's wrong to walk away from things that are difficult. You just don't throw away all that hard work that you put in the past.
Hugh very definitely had reached a point when he'd done enough strangling, basically. And after, what was it, by then it was about 16 years, you know, he's had a good innings, and I think he'd had enough of it, you know. It's a lot of hard work.
Do you also feel that the reason they carried on though is because a band is more than just one person?
But the Stranglers sound was up for the four people that were in it. That was the setup. So now it's something else. I mean, they should change their name, because it's It's not what it was, you know.
A number of people have suggested within the industry that it might be worth you considering and them considering cutting losses if neither of you have commercial success away from each other and getting back together and doing what the Rolling Stones do when a couple of them take time out and do solo projects and get back. How come you don't just do that?
Because I see no achievement in that. I like to try new things, you know. I think I'd rather travel around the world than do that, to be honest.
The fracture was in August 1990. Was it a complete surprise?
Not completely, no.
He obviously knew, I would imagine, or has made up his mind the night before at the Ali Pali, the gig there, you know. Didn't say a word to anyone, which was odd.
He didn't intimate a thing?
Not a thing. No, he must have made up. It didn't happen overnight, obviously.
Well, strangely enough, when we came off stage at that Alexandra Palace gig, he said something very cryptic. It was something like, "That was very enjoyable. I'll see you in another life," or something. So it was kind of like, I wonder what that means.
Did you think that at the time?
I didn't think he was going to leave the band, but I thought that was it was a very loaded statement. So when the management phoned up and said Hugh's leaving, I was a bit surprised, but not totally shocked. Put it that way.
We'd finished the main tour as such. His press statement was something like, I think, no, there was nothing coming up in the future, etc., etc. So he felt this was the time to do it.
I haven't written anything and put my name to anything in any magazine about why I left the Stranglers. Statements may have been issued, but my name has never been on them.
Never. To set the record straight by giving you the opportunity.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I've told you is exactly the reason why I left the band, and anything that you've read in the past, you can, forget, because my name wasn't on it.
No, I understand those sentiments, but there was in fact a short American tour coming up within a month or two, but that obviously had to be cancelled. But it wasn't that important.
But it was the way it was done, which was a bit dishonourable.
Mm-hmm. Like a phone call, by the way. I'm thinking
yes, exactly. Phone call. I was in France. I'd seen Hugh the day before at a concert. I'd say, "I'll see you soon, mate." And next day he phones me up. I'm back in France, and he says, "Oh, by the way, It's like it's imagine you've been married to someone for 15 years, and they're just off on the way to the office, and they say, "Oh, by the way, darling, I'm leaving you. I'm divorcing you." You know, sort of. Oh, right, okay then, fair.
Well, that's the way divorces happen. That's the way people do leave each other. You know, they just decide one day they can't do it anymore. I mean, you can't you don't say to your wife, "Well, I'm going to be leaving you in 6 months' time." I mean, you go for as long as you can, and then you can't do it anymore.
I disagree, actually. I did, my first wife.
And so you have to go. That's what happens in any relationships that are based on emotion, you know.
As far as I know, nobody's spoken to him. Well, I certainly haven't, and I spoke to him twice since that show. Once was on the phone when he rang up to say, "I'm leaving," and the other times when we had a meeting at the accountants to sort out the details, financial details and legal side of it, and that's it. I haven't seen him or spoken to him since.
There's no point me being in communication with them until we both got ourselves sorted out, and I'd rather them get on with their thing and I'll get on with mine, and then we'll meet up in the future and have a beer about it.
And talk it out.
Yeah.
A lot of loose ends to tie up though after all those years.
Yeah, so that's...
After 16 years.
Yeah, I've got a few loose ends to tie up with him.
Since the Stranglers, Hughes released an album with Roger Cook and Andy West as CCW and 3 solo LPs, Wired, then his most critically acclaimed album to date, Guilty, in 1997, followed up by Hi-Fi, the latter two being produced by the man behind Oral Sculpture in the 80s, Laurie Latham. Something of a musical guru to Hugh, the pair have continued to work together. Several acoustic and full band tours have followed on the back of these albums, taking Hugh across Britain and the country in which he most desires success, America. But Hugh's aspirations in the thespian field still elude him.
He wanted to move on and do some acting, you know.
See, Hugh also wanted to be an actor. You know, and that's what the world needs, another pop star who wants to be an actor, really. And that's what you're going to get.
What happened to your acting career as well? Because in 1982 you'd done some stuff. You even acted with Bob Hoskins once, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, you're only as soon as you're happening in the charts, the phone will start ringing. As far as that goes, that's what happens. You only put bums on seats in cinemas or on theatres if you're happening. if you've got a hit record. So there's no point in me, you know, entertaining anything like that until things start happening.
So you don't have any designs on that as another art form for you?
Yeah, I do, but you can't make people employ you. Yeah, you've got to be desirable, you know, and I'm not desirable at the moment, so I shall wait for that. I think there's a knock at the door.
And as one door closes, another one opens for singer Paul Roberts, another victim of a Stranglers career accident who happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Well, had he not walked through the door, and that's how it was, he walked through the door and said, "I'm your new singer." I thought, listen to this guy. He's going to be our new singer.
How many had you auditioned at that point?
Well, not many, to be truthful. 2 or 3, I think.
Really?
But he was so convincing. It smacked of the day Dave walked through the door. There was just that. It's his state of mind, his attitude, his language. It just sounded right, you know.
And his humour, of course, yeah.
Oh, and his humour, yeah, absolutely.
So the Stranglers' recruitment of new vocalist Paul Roberts was just another in a long line of career accidents. Here's Paul's own interpretation of events.
I went into my local chip shop and it turned into the Stranglers management office.
Still is, I understand.
Yeah, it's very greasy in there.
What happened?
I just told them I'd do it.
They were looking for somebody at the time. That must have been about summer 1990.
That was about autumn 1990.
But had you had any previous singing experience, sort of school choir or anything like that?
Yeah, I used to get regularly thrashed at school and I used to have to go, "Ah, ah, not again, Jenkins, please."
Next.
No, I've had a few bands and I've had a few singles out.
The band's drummer and historian Jet Black explains more.
Somebody had to be of our culture rather than of our music, you know, primarily, because if you can't live together, you know, and that's what you do, it's just not going to work. So that was the first thing. Then it will be handy if he can sing, it will be handy if he's got some creative ability. And he had all the right things, you know, and it was just a complete accident, you know. He wasn't actually looking for us at the time when he walked through the door. He had a tape of some of his songs he was going to give to somebody else for somebody else. And somebody said, "Oh, well, I see, yeah. Well, the Stranglers are interested in this." So he walked through the door and said, "Oh, I'm your new singer."
So now that you're writing, did you find that when you came into the band, it was, crikey, here's sort of 3 or 4, 3 old stalwarts, and I've seen these guys on television before. Although you're supremely confident on stage, was it daunting to get into a situation where they know exactly what they're doing and you had to be guided?
Well, no, because there's an attitude amongst Stranglers fans probably unique to them. It's certainly unique to the band. You know, don't get on stage and say, "Okay, everybody, I want you to put your hands together and come on, clap your hands."
It doesn't work like that, does it?
No. And this song's about my dog.
You have said
Thank you, and that's really bad news. We hate a lot of you, really.
You're not supposed to say, is that a thing?
And I've heard thank you for the first time, and it's very nice. I think you're a very well brung up young man. Thanks. I was brung up by me mother.
Excuse me, but how old are you now?
That's right.
You looking for the grey bits, but there aren't.
No grey bits. I was made by Birdseye, and there's no grey bits. No grey bits on the captain's table.
What were you influenced by?
I can't answer that. It's illegal. I was influenced by alcohol. I was influenced by loads of things. The Doors, Iggy, Hendrix, Roxy Music.
So were you a fan beforehand?
Oh yeah.
With Paul Roberts now on vocals, the band in the 90s seemed to develop a penchant for playing trouble spots. Bosnia, the Falklands, and of course France. But in the summer of 1997, the band came of age slightly late with the 21st anniversary gig in tuxedos and accompanying all-female electro strings at the Royal Albert Hall. What a night. All the fingers, Dave Greenfield.
It was definitely something we had to do at some point in our career. I mean, and it was a pinnacle in the fact that it was different. I would like to do it again, but costs, etc. You know, the rehearsals, the girls, everything, and the time it took to do. I still enjoy doing it. I don't regret doing it, shall we say. But to go through it again, we need a lot of time. And why repeat yourself, if you see what I mean. But no, I enjoyed it.
I mean, what means most to me is probably that my dad was there, and that was kind of one of the last times he ever saw me. And all my life I told him I was going to do something decent, and I did. So he died with that at his bedside, so I guess just that alone makes it... I don't know whether that's any better than the first time he ever saw me, but as a band, everyone just loved it, you know. It was just a really cool event. It was like playing Wembley or something with your football team, I suppose. So when you got your mates on stage and a bunch of string players and your family in front of you and your friends in the roof dropping balloons on your head, it's just quite fun, yeah. So yeah, I had a fabulous night.
It felt like a very special occasion from the off.
Yeah, it just had one of those things about it. I guess it was so unusual to have a band like us playing there, I've got to say it wasn't my best gig that I've ever done. But yeah, I mean, the preparation was bizarre because, I mean, we played all over the world. We played in the most weird places, and you prepare yourself for a show, and then you stand on stage at the Albert Hall, and suddenly it just takes your breath away. I remember standing up and going, "Oh my God,"
Not the kind of band to sit around nostalgically mulling over past events or group members. The Men in Black get on with the next job at hand. It's that man again.
And it's going to be interesting now to sit down and start in total with the band as it is now and start the album as a scratch from 5 new people, which we've only done a few numbers of. So,
do you all socialise together and jam together? I mean, obviously you're writing, but do you all hang out together much? You say you all have different pastimes.
No, basically because we're separated a lot. I mean, if we're around, I see JJ a fair bit, obviously. I mean, JJ and I work together in projects outside of the Stranglers.
If I have any criticism of the Stranglers at all, it's a criticism that I have for a lot of bands. I'm talking about the old Stranglers now. Is that there was a kind of menace that created a war between the band and the audience. When you don't try and communicate with the audience, that wall goes up. And I think it was just part of the Stranglers' attitude to playing was that they didn't feel it was necessary to go out and really entertain. They were up there to play the material and make their performances, and the audience, in a way, I mean, I know some of the members of the band might disagree, but the audience were separate to what was going on stage sometimes.
That's John Ellis, whose departure we'll look at more in just a minute. Now, as the Stranglers Mark II became a more cohesive unit, Paul's first full writing involvement came on 1995's About Time, which harboured such gems as Golden Boy and Still Life. But he still has reservations over its production.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the Stranglers. I just think the production could have been a little tighter. There's no disrespect to Alan, it was just the way things go, But I just think I think people look back and say it was a great album. I'd like to re-record it with a little bit more time, really. But yeah, I'm kind of proud of it. I hope everyone else is.
Still Life worked very well when you did the Albert Hall as well.
Yeah, well, it's just made, really. It's a sort of pseudo-classical piece of pop, really. Yeah, I think it's a great song. I'm always hesitant because I would like to re-record it, and myself and me and JJ were listening to In the Night yesterday, actually, and he was saying how great it sounds, and I was kind of going, he goes, I'd like to do everything, I'd like to go and re-record all the bass parts, and I said, well, I'd like to go and do all the vocals, so yeah, I mean, but About Time was definitely my first album, I think. Written in Red, I think, is a really good album. I think it could have been finished. It's not finished, and it was a difficult time, I think, for the band. So I guess it was a tricky record to make. I don't think it got finished. I think it was misunderstood in some places. I don't know if the producer involved really was complicit with the ideas of the rest of the band. So I don't really know what happened. It was a bit of a black hole, really. I know the songs could have been better, but the one thing I do believe about it is that it's a different record, and I think that when you buy a Stranglers record, you want something different.
Valley of the Birds stuck out on that one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Valley of the Birds is a classic Stranglers song. There's no two ways about it. And this, I guess it's unfortunate that when things are mentioned in the history of the band, a tendency to stop at 82 is awfully annoying for all of us, Lyrically, some of these songs stand up, and attitude-wise, I mean, some of them, they're a total kick up the arse from things that were happening at the end of Hugh's career, and I think that he was dragging the band in that direction.
Now, we've come to learn in Stranglers folklore that nothing is ever what it seems, as I discovered when invited, along with a few other journalists during Christmas '96, to the Written in Red album launch in, of all places, Disneyland Paris. Didn't get that one at all.
I didn't get it either myself. I think if I mean, I don't know. It's just another bit of. It's another great bit of history, really. We've got lots of funny things to look back on. If I go mad in Disney, yeah, full of incident, and I don't know. I think in retrospect, I mean, we really put ourselves up for a severe criticism. You know, Stranglers, Disneyland. But I mean, I don't think anyone really is bothered by that. You know, we did our best and we had a good time doing it. And we got some free rides out of it as well, especially Thunder Mountain, which I did 3 times, and we didn't have to queue up. So that was really cool launching it at Disneyland, actually.
Coup de grace then. Not one of your favourite moments then, I gather.
No, it was just I think that it was just a difficult time. It was a difficult time for the whole band.
Dave prefers that.
Well, I didn't have. To be honest, I didn't have a major involvement with that album. I don't really know why, but it was nice to hear Dave again playing a wee bit more, I suppose. Whether that was his choice or whether the material required it, or whether he was actually putting more of himself into this album instead of the previous albums, I don't know really. Maybe he felt more inspired on that album than he'd had before. It wasn't for want of trying before. I guess if I can sum it up, I suppose I felt that perhaps the other guys had lost a wee bit of confidence in themselves during Written in Red, and I felt very responsible at that point to try and get something going. I guess that was for me the main push. I was trying to get the guys involved in something I guess that they didn't feel comfortable with, and I think they felt much more comfortable regrouping as older members, original members, for Coup de Grace. You know, I know the ethos of the band. I mean, I'd always asked JJ to sing anyway. I'd always kind of been pushing for him to do a couple of songs. I'd always insist that he sings songs on stage.
When Paul joined the band and Hugh left, I lost all confidence in my singing. And also as an act to show my support for Paul, I let him sing even the songs I'd sung before. And I got out of that with the Albert Hall, and I've been progressively singing more and more. And with the bass clinics that I did, the so-called bass clinics, I started wanting to sing some of the songs I'd written, more so with Coup de Grace as well. I started singing a bit more now.
Would you anticipate doing that with the Stranglers more and more as you record and do live stuff with the songs that you traditionally did?
I'm not sure because Paul's covered an awful lot of the songs I used to do, and to have given them to him, and he's adopted them as his own, because he'll only sing things that he feels for, that he believes in, or that feel right. So to give them to him, then take them away from him, it might not be a very good idea.
But I think for someone like myself coming into a band like the Stranglers, it was quite important that I had, if you like, a wee bit of help on stage from someone like JJ, because I'd always mooted the band as a 2 frontman band. So to then suddenly go down to this one fucking nutcase with blonde hair, I think it was a bit much for some people. So I kind of wish that JJ had been more involved myself, really. I think John Ellis was asserting himself too much at that time. I think that fucked a lot of things up, to be honest. Not that that's a downer on John, I don't mean that. I just mean that it wasn't right for the band, and I don't think the band was as strong as they should have been, perhaps,
Your views on and feelings about the departure of John Ellis?
Yeah, it was sudden, and he didn't even ring us and tell us. He told the manager. He rang me about a week later, and that was that. So I feel no sense of loss at all, to be quite honest. And Baz is a great character and a brilliant guitarist. So
I think John had a different agenda to the rest of us. I honestly believe that.
And finally, what about the secret behind the Stranglers' success and survival?
It must be a mixture, all of which have been quoted tonight, actually. Myself, I will put it down to a combination of the fact that we do split everything 4 ways, therefore don't argue on the major thing of who wrote a number. Yes, basically. The fact that were four totally different people who together created the Stranglers, therefore we relied on each other. The luck of being at the right place at the right time to get swept in the new wave upsurge. The fact that we didn't stay stagnant like other bands playing the same type of music, because I know I wouldn't be with the band now if we stayed playing the same. We evolved as musicians and as people, as a band, shall we say, into different styles. That's the basic elements that I can come up with. If it starts becoming like a job, which is probably what happened to Hugh, he wasn't enjoying doing it anymore, then he was right to stop. If I ever feel that way, if I think, oh, I don't like the guys anymore, I don't want to do this tour, I might as well give up. Because if not, I'll start dragging people down. So, let's hope it won't happen again for many years, that somebody gets fed up. That's all I can say.
And I've just about got a style and a sound, and I know what I'm doing now, and I'm very happy with it, and it's organic.
But all of you were strikingly contrasting in many ways, or would you say not?
Yes, totally agree. It was a miracle that we stayed, the 4 of us stayed as it was for so long now, after I'm out of it. I think it's a complete... it's unusual that we should have stuck together. I think the reason why we stuck together for so long was because we never reached the level of... talk about when I was with the Stranglers, never reached the level of success that we always had aspirations, so that held us together. And also we felt that so many people were against us, and that held us together as well. So we had these 2 factors which, although in normal situation these people wouldn't have stayed together so long, these 2 factors held us together for even longer than we would normally have stayed together.
Affectionately, do you think that for the consistency of the band that you have been in, which nobody will ignore you for, you'll still trade off of it now to an extent, it was one of the finest rock and roll bands of the last 15-20 years, or not?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
You know, it's been a long time since Hugh was in the band. John's gone now, so it's down to me to try and inject what I can do onto a recording, and hopefully I can do that.
How would you like to influence the band and drive them forwards? In other words, what are ambitions?
You just want the momentum to continue and make records that people will buy. You've always got your eye, one eye on massive global interstellar success, and I mean, you'd be a fucking liar if you said you didn't have one eye on that. But by the same token, you've got to be realistic and think, well, but if we make this album and it sounds really, really great, then we'll be happy. I mean, ultimately, you've got to be happy with it yourself. So I don't know, just onwards and upwards, really. I mean, the lads themselves have got absolutely no sort of qualms about keeping going. There's no talk of, taking things easy. I think next year is going to be a more of a touring year, which everybody seems to be agreed on. We want to go out there and seriously do some gigs.
There must be situations where you've thought, my God, it's the Stranglers again. I'm with them, and I'm in a situation, and I don't like this.
Well, actually, it was the first gig I ever did with them, which was in the Rodon Club in Athens, and allegedly there was a threat from some right-wing group. Somebody wanted to have a go at somebody or something like that, and I kind of thought, I'm not being a fighting man. I've been through a lot. I guess I'm tough. I don't know, but I just don't believe in hairy chests, really. Even though you've got one, Dave. But this suddenly, when I'm with my friends, I'll do anything to protect them. It's kind of a bit like the Jack Russell syndrome. And I saw this fellow come on stage from stage left, and I was just ready to kill him, really, because he was going towards JJ. Obviously, he was coming from my left, which was past Johnny Ellis, but I thought, well, JJ's going to get it, and he's nothing he's going to be able to do about it. So I just attacked the guy. But before I could get to him, he dived off stage, and it was nothing at all. But you do feel it, and I know actually some of the old Finchley boys stayed behind with me one night in the Town and Country because these guys were threatening me, and I haven't got a problem if someone wants to have a punch up. I'm fine. I'll have to fight my way out of it. I've not got a problem with that, but I'm not an instigator. So
have there been a few situations like that, or?
Yeah. There have. I got attacked by someone's wife one night outside a pub in northern France because her boyfriend or her husband became a cropper because of his ignorance, shall we say. So I found myself getting attacked in the middle of the street by someone's missus. It was quite worrying, and it hurt.
You've been handbagged.
When the Stranglers formed, I was about 8. You know what I mean? 8 or 9. So it's a long, long time. It's nice just to be sort of part of it, really, and to be accepted. And I mean, if there are certain fans that don't accept you, then that's just their tough shit. You know what I mean?
It's nice to be where we're at. Let's say, you know, I think we're having a really good time. I would have always liked to have. I would like to think that from when I joined the band till now, the guys have still got a buzz out of me because I've still got a buzz out of them, and it's kind of like it's like a marriage. I mean, we've all said it, and I'm sure everyone's said it now that, you know, sometimes in a marriage you don't want to see each other, you know, sometimes. So. But now we're having a really good renaissance. I really want to go out on the road. I really want to get a good album out. I want us to maybe write a wee bit more, do some really interesting gigs, and let's have a hit record, you know, because we all deserve it. You know, let's just hope that we can fucking raise the black flag, you know, for a few more years.
And these days, the Stranglers even get some respect from their old adversaries on television. Although sometimes you'd think the war wasn't over.
As soon as I saw Malcolm McLaren presenting the show, although ironically it was Ian Dury, the voiceover, wasn't it? Yeah. Let him rest in peace. But as soon as I saw Malcolm McLaren, I knew that I didn't think we were going to get a look in at all, because he never made any bones about the fact that he thought we weren't part of his clique, so he didn't like us. But I was very surprised when we were voted to. And he didn't come out with any snide comments about us, and probably because he would have loved to, but probably because he knew I'd find him and punch his lights out.
It's the old you coming out again there. You say you still can't hide it, can you?
Sometimes, well, I hide it very well most of the time, but
it still comes to the surface.
Missions that, you know, I do suddenly become a vigilante man occasionally.
How are you coping with the partying with the other members of the band? Because we all know that one or two of them can imbibe the odd bit of alcohol.
Nah, they're all fucking lightweights, man, compared to me. No. I can't believe I said that. No, but I mean, yeah, the party aspect of it is I mean, these lads have been going there for, like I say, a lot of years, but they can still do it. You know, you want a drink or whatever else you might want to have. Yeah, they're still cast iron. I don't know where they get the constitution from, to be honest with you. But yeah, we've had some good laughs so far, and long may their reign.
Do I feel I have issues to address?
Not really, issues.
No, not at all. I'm very happy. I'm very comfortable. I've been comfortable for about 3 years now. I don't think anyone can doubt my commitment to the band. So, I mean, if they don't like it, they don't like it. Tough shit.
We've sold an awful lot of records, although we're still. I suppose the name is a household name, but we're unknown, which is quite handy.
The story's so far from the Men in Black, and it won't finish there. I've got a few tales of my own I could relate, but you'd have to get me pretty drunk. Oh, I suppose there was that time at Disneyland Paris, though. My thanks go to the Stranglers past and present: Hugh Cornwell, Jet Black, John Ellis, Dave Greenfield, Jean-Jacques Burnel, Baz Warne, and Paul Roberts. Rock and Roll According to the Men in Black was written and produced by Dave Mason.